Yep. So, Anne can speak to that. So, Anne, there's a question. He would like you to re-explain how it's not actually approved by the FDA.
Who asked?
Where did you end up parking? I'm not aware. I'm a by the Windows Tower.
So Pfizer is making it very confusing, and the ones that the Pfizer vaccines are the Pfizer BioNTech ones, and it is not Comirnaty. So in order to get a licensed approved vaccine, that vaccine has to have the Comirnaty label on it. And none of the ones in the U.S., as we know right now, after speaking with Pfizer reps, they don't have any Comirnaty ones that we've been told. There's no Comirnaty ones in the U.S. Now, some of the reps says that some of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccines, some of the lots are equivalent to Comirnaty. But the problem with this is when you get a vaccine under EUA, even though they say the chemical is the same formula, you do not get the same liability as a licensed vaccine at all. And these EUA vaccines, the government, the pharma, the companies all have way more protection from an adverse event happening. They're protected from all of this stuff. And the reason why you don't hear some of the adverse events like neurological symptoms and stuff like that, I don't know if you guys listened to some of the actual victims of really bad adverse reactions, the people that have been in the clinical study. Some of them after the first shot, when they had an adverse reaction, they were dropped from the study. So they never completed it. And then the other thing is too, they gave them a very structured list of what they could report as an adverse reaction. So like malaise, fever, and that kind of stuff. But there was no myocarditis on the list. There was no neurological symptoms on the list. So of course, on the paper, the FDA white paper, they can say this is the most common effects, right? Or malaise, tired, soreness, and that kind of stuff. There was no other option for the victims or the people that were in the clinical trials to report other symptoms or adverse reactions. But yeah.
Let's go, Brandon!
Under the EUA, could they manipulate recipes, so to speak, a lot more easily than?
Yes, yeah. So so when I said that there were some lots that Pfizer has actually, you can actually find this in some of the lawsuits out there that some people have brought forward. Is that it's really just coming from somebody who's done research and some commercialization and stuff like that. It gave me orange flags to know that some EUA lots were considered equivalent, while others are not. If they were all EUA, then why are only some of the lots considered equivalent? To me, that's concerning. Explain why, please. They won't say why, but please explain why.
They won't tell you
They won't.
ingredients of any of them.
Yeah, they only have big classifications of the ingredients, but they don't really go into the detail. And part of that, they claim, trade secrets and that kind of stuff. But Dr. Malone, who is the inventor of the technology, will tell you, if you go to the Global COVID Summit and watch his video, he will give you the absolute truth of the science behind it, because he invented it. And he says that the nanoparticles and some of the chemicals that are used in this to envelope the technology, they don't know the cytotoxicity in it because there has not been long-term human studies on it. The first time they tried to launch this technology for SARS-CoV-1, they had to stop it because of ADE and giving rise to variants, and so they had to stop it. So, it's just, this is just a mass human experimentation is what it is. And I think they use COVID as a way to help reduce the barrier. They create this fear, right? Because any other normal times, if somebody asks you, would you take this experimental injection that's never been tested for long term before, and it's kind of gene therapy based, you would say no, right? But if you're scared for your life and you think this is the only answer for you to protect yourself and your loved ones, then the barrier drops, right? And then you start to hear everybody else, and then they use social pressure to do it, right? And then so yeah, and you know, it's just really alarming to see some of this data that's has been hidden or not reported accurately, right? The CDC at one point actually changed what unvaccinated was. Like a person who got one shot was also considered unvaccinated in that category. Or if you got the second shot and if it's within the two-week time frame, you're considered unvaccinated. I'm sorry, but in research, that is completely not okay. Like if I did that, if during my research, that would be unethical of me to do that. Because once you get injected, you are no longer unvaccinated. You're no longer controlled, right? So within the 2 weeks, yeah. So you are only considered fully vaccinated after the second shot and 14 days later. And the other thing and the other thing too is sometimes after people, I know a doctor friend who has treated people who have gotten COVID after getting the shot too, actually. So that's kind of happened. And then it's when you get a vaccine, when you get a shot, your immune system actually tanks for a week or two before it's able to rebuild back up again. So while it's rebuilding back up, though, your body's actually creating these spike proteins. So your body's fighting off inflammation in the spike proteins. And if the spike protein was actually a human-made virus, well, when you're getting the injection, it's just a big concentration of the virus, right? When you get it naturally, you actually get this slow ramp of the virus replicating. Well, if you get the vaccine, it's just like a huge concentration of it in your body right away. So, and some people can't handle that very well. So,
Can you speak to the during the clinical trials for the 5 and 11-year-olds? There was a formula, but then after the vaccine.
oh yes. So yeah, I know just a little bit about that. I was reading about that. So the clinical trials that they did for the 5 to 11-year-olds was based off of a buffer system that they actually have, you know, that was developed alongside all this Pfizer-BioNTech stuff. By the time that they actually decided to roll it out, they said for stability reasons, they changed the buffer to a tris buffer. And there is no data whatsoever that we know of that we can get our hands of to know what this new buffer system with the vaccine will do once it's injected into the kids' arms. So the formula that they're injecting into kids now is not the one that they did clinical trials with. And I can't tell you if that's good or bad because there is no data. The kids now that are getting injected with it, they're going to be the experimental data.
Yep.
But the unfortunate thing is you know, the thing to understand about the EUA for your protection is to know that once you have an adverse reaction, your liability to be able to get compensation or help drops way down, because before you can even apply for a claim, you have to have a doctor that's willing to actually diagnose you as having a direct adverse reaction. Well, there's like 90% of the doctors right now can't give you that because this is all new. The adverse reactions are all over the place. And if you can't get that diagnosis, how can you even file a claim, right? And if you get an anxiety or stress diagnosis, you automatically don't even qualify. You don't even qualify for it. So,
Is there a statute of limitations? Like when you have to.
Yeah. So in the PrEP Act, the CICP part that you have to go to actually file a claim, you have to do it within a year. So you have to be diagnosed, and it has to be within a year. So if you have like an autoimmune issue that develops outside a year, well, too bad. Yeah, and autoimmune issues don't always happen immediately. They happen later on. You're welcome.
Regarding Pfizer and the packaging that the Pfizer stuff comes in, where on their packaging does it say these issues that you're talking about? So
far, everything that I have, as far as in the box goes, I don't actually see the vaccines. I don't work with the vaccines, but some of the doctors that have actually obtained some of the papers in there, it says that it's just blank. There's nothing.
You're talking
So-
the papers in the box, or
Right,
you're
in the
talking about the
box.
packaging itself? Normally vaccines and so forth would have packaging that would have disclosures on there.
Right, indications and stuff. Apparently, so far as I've been able to research, it's blank. The inserts are blank. It says this is intentionally left blank. And so some of the more recent revelations from FDA, like myocarditis, pericarditis, and all that, it's on their updated, like, Pfizer paper.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to go there to look for it. I mean, I'm sure that they'll probably start changing it, but maybe some of the ones that they've shipped out already, they don't have those indications on there.
All right. Thank you.